In 1989, Nissan built a Skyline GT-R with 300 horsepower. Then it printed 280 on the brochure. Not a typo, not a rounding error, a choice. And for the next 15 years, almost every fast car in Japan told the exact same lie. The Skyline GT-R, 280. The Supra, 280. The RX-7, the NSX, the Lancer Evo, the Impreza. All of them, magically, mysteriously, identically, 280 horsepower. Cars with completely different engines, built by rival companies, all landing on the same suspiciously round number. That is not a coincidence. That is a handshake. And here's the twist nobody outside Japan really understood at the time. The people telling the lie thought they were the good guys. So let's rewind. It's the late 1980s. Japan is rich, almost cartoonishly rich. The bubble economy is in full swing, money is everywhere, and the car companies are locked in an engineering arms race to build the most advanced machines on Earth. Twin turbos, all-wheel drive, four-wheel steering. The good stuff. But there was a problem. The roads were getting deadly. Traffic deaths in Japan had climbed back above 10,000 a year, and they kept climbing all the way to 11,451 by 1992. The government was watching. And when a Japanese ministry starts watching, car companies get nervous. Because the alternative to regulating yourself is getting regulated by somebody else. So the industry did something very Japanese and very clever. Under the umbrella of the Japan Automobile Manufacturers Association, then chaired by Toyota boss Shoichiro Toyota, the big companies quietly agreed among themselves. No car sold in Japan would advertise more than 280 horsepower, 280 metric horsepower to be exact, which works out to about 276 of the horsepower you would measure in Britain or America. They threw in a companion promise too, a speed limiter set at 180 kilometers an hour, about 112 miles an hour. It was never a law. Nobody signed anything. There were no police, no fines, no inspectors. It was a gentleman's agreement, and the very first car to wear that 280 badge was the Nissan Fairlady Z, the car we called the 300ZX, which is deeply funny because that car's twin-turbo V6 actually made 300 horsepower. Everywhere else in the world, Nissan sold it as a 300 horsepower car. In Japan, same engine, they wrote 280. The lie was born fully grown. Here's what makes this the best kind of scandal. Everybody knew. The manufacturers knew, the buyers knew, the magazines knew. It was the world's most polite open secret. The engineers didn't detune these cars, they just wrote a smaller number on the paperwork and kept building monsters. The most famous example is the Nissan Skyline GT-R, officially 280 horsepower. Under the hood sat the RB26, a twin-turbo inline-six that Nissan's engineers had quietly overbuilt to an almost comical degree. Years later, the writer Doug DeMuro strapped a stock GT-R to a dyno to settle it once and for all. The car put down 281 horsepower at the wheels. After you account for everything lost through the drivetrain, that points to somewhere around 320 horsepower at the crank. The car was underrated by roughly 40 horsepower straight from the factory. And when Honda finally broke ranks in 2004, Nissan quietly admitted the R34 GT-R had been making about 330 horsepower all along. The same GT-R that lapped the Nürburgring Nordschleife in under 8 minutes with a clock that, by the way, nobody at Nissan seemed particularly surprised by. Then there's the Toyota Supra and its legendary 2JZ engine. On paper, 280 in Japan. That same twin-turbo motor, sold in America with barely any changes, was rated at 320. Same block, different sticker. And that iron block was so wildly overbuilt, so full of extra strength it didn't strictly need, that tuners routinely push it past 1,000 horsepower on the original internals. Toyota basically built a race engine and labeled it like a family sedan. The Mazda RX-7, the Honda NSX, the Subaru Impreza WRX STI, the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo. Same story, over and over. 280 on the box, more under the hood. If you grew up playing Gran Turismo in the 90s, these were the cars you saved up your in-game credits for. The game listed them at 280 horsepower too. Even the simulation was in on it. And when the Fast and the Furious put a Supra and a Skyline on cinema screens in 2001, an entire generation of Western kids fell in love with what Japanese car enthusiasts had known for years. These numbers were a polite fiction wrapped around something genuinely extraordinary. Now, if you're going to run a conspiracy this big, you need loopholes. And Japan had a great one. The agreement capped horsepower. It said nothing about torque. So while every brochure showed the same 280 power figure, the torque numbers were left to roam free, and they gave the whole game away. Look at the Mitsubishi GTO, sold abroad as the 3000 GT VR4. In Japan, 280 horsepower. In America, 320. Different number, identical engine. But here's the tell. Mitsubishi listed the exact same torque figure in both countries. They could not be bothered to fake that one. If the power was really different, the torque would be different too. It was not. Case closed. There were other dodges as well. The in-house tuning divisions were treated as exempt, which is how Nissan's own Nismo could sell a 400 horsepower Skyline called the 400R with a straight face, and how Subaru slipped out limited specials that openly claimed more. The rule, it turned out, was less of a wall and more of a suggestion. But the 280 story has a smaller, weirder cousin, because there is a second horsepower cap in Japan, and this one is still alive today. Meet the K car. KE cars are Japan's tiny tax-friendly city cars, and unlike the big agreement, key cars really are defined by law. The rules are strict and specific. The engine can be no bigger than 660 cubic centimeters. The car can be no longer than 3.4 meters, no wider than 1.48 meters, no taller than 2 meters. Stay inside that box and you get cheaper tax, cheaper insurance, cheaper everything. That part is genuine regulation. But the power figure is not. Every hot K car, going back decades, claims exactly 64 horsepower. 64 metric horsepower, which is about 63 of the regular kind. And here is the fact that trips up almost everyone, including some encyclopedias. That 64 horsepower limit is not a law. It never was. It's another gentleman's agreement, nudged into existence by pressure from the old Ministry of Transport, but never actually written into any statute. The car that started it was the 1987 Suzuki Alto Works, the first K car to hit 64 horsepower. Legend has it Suzuki originally wanted nearly 80, and the ministry leaned on them to back off. Treat that 80 number as folklore, because the sources hedge it, but the ministry pressure was real, and 64 became the ceiling everyone agreed to respect. It gave us a golden age of absurd little machines. The 1990s gave us the so-called ABC cars, the AutoZam AZ1 with gull-wing doors and a mid-mounted turbo, the Honda Beat, a screaming little roadster that revved past 8,000, and the Suzuki Cappuccino, a rear-drive convertible roughly the size of a bathtub. All three 64 horsepower, all three glorious. And you want proof the cap is just a promise and not a law? A British company, Caterham, sells a K-legal car in Japan making 80 horsepower, blowing straight past the limit, because as an importer it never agreed to the handshake in the first place. So how does a 15-year lie finally die? Quietly. In July 2004, the chairman of the Manufacturers Association, Itaru Koeda, stood in front of the press and admitted they had found no real link between speed, power, and road deaths. And by then the deaths had actually been falling for years. The whole premise had collapsed. And the car that broke the agreement wasn't some fire-breathing supercar. It was a comfy luxury sedan. The Honda Legend, launched in October 2004, rolled out with a 3.5-liter V6 and an honest printed 300 horsepower. First Japanese car in 15 years to admit the truth on paper. The dam broke instantly. Within a few years, Nissan launched the R35 GT-R with 473 horsepower and didn't blink. The big lie was over. But the little one lived on. The G-Car 64 horsepower agreement is still with us in the 2020s. When Honda built the S660 sports car in 2015, engineers admitted it could make around 100 horsepower, but they held it to 64. The revived Suzuki Alto works, same thing. Even the new electric K-cars, the Nissan Sakura and its Mitsubishi twin, which have no engine and no displacement to limit at all, voluntarily cap themselves at exactly 64 horsepower. No law makes them do it. They just do. So the next time you see an old Japanese legend listed at 280 horsepower, or a tiny K-car quoting 64, remember what you're really looking at. Not a spec, a gesture. An entire industry deciding together to lie about how good it was, on purpose, to keep the government off its back and the roads a little safer. It's the most honest dishonesty in automotive history. And honestly, it kind of worked. If this untangled a mystery you'd always wondered about, subscribe and we'll keep the facts coming.